It was just after the dispute, the UDM were present, and to be frank, it was quite an intimidating campaign. But we worked hard and we won it. And we won it on the basis of solidarity of the whole of the labour and trade union movement mobilising. And I've come back again today. I'll be campaigning and knocking on doors for Alan Meal, because we need a Labour MP for this area that stood up for the community all of those decades. Let's be clear about what this general election is all about. This general election is about the people versus the establishment. It's about us taking on the elite. And what they've done to us over the 7 years, I think, is shocking and a disgrace. They invented an economic theory to justify their actions. You know what it's called. It's neoliberalism, trickle-down economics, where they justify, if you cut the taxes to the rich and corporations, somehow that money will filter down, that wealth will filter down to the rest of society. And they've had that experiment now, and they've been in government for 7 years, and we know the results of it. The results we saw over the last week: 1.25 million children in this country, 1.25 million children in families where there are people now dependent upon food banks. So we have a government now that can't feed its population, a basic responsibility. How many of you seen I, Daniel Blake? Ken Loach made that film, and it's a fictitious story. For most Labour MPs right the way across the country, they'll tell you from their surgeries and their advice sessions, that's not fiction, that's documentary. We now have a report out only a week ago saying that during school holidays, when kids aren't getting the free school meals, there's 2 million kids at risk of malnourishment in this country. This is the 5th richest country in the world, and we can't feed our kids. There's something wrong here somewhere, isn't there? So we have a government that can't feed its population. We also have the worst housing crisis, the most severe housing crisis that we've seen since the Second World War. Homelessness doubling. Waiting lists reduced because they've cut access to the waiting lists, but a housing crisis that's caused overcrowding and insanitary conditions, again, that we haven't seen since the Second World War. And what is this government doing about it? It's allowing, to be frank, property houses to become speculation, wealth for speculators. We have foreign owners who buy properties in our major cities, leave them empty, because actually that's the way they get their value. And we have a government, to be frank, that's denied local authorities the opportunity to build the homes we desperately need. And in my constituency tonight, and it'll be like this right the way across the country, I represent a London working class multicultural constituency. There'll be people sleeping on the parks, on the canal side, and you know, we've got people, families in garages and sheds, beds in sheds, rented out to them. And I have a Tory council who sold off the council houses 20 years ago, renting them back at vast expense to put homeless families in. I'll have 200 families in my constituency tonight homeless because of this Tory government's refusal to allow us to build homes again. So we have a government that can't feed its population, can't house its population. And also where we have a government that can't ensure that people, when they go to work, get a decent wage. 0 hours contracts, 1 in 10 workers now in insecure work. And what does that mean? What does that result in? It means 2/3 of our children in poverty are actually in families where someone's in work. What does that tell you about the level of wages? And where does that come from? From the suppression of trade union rights under every Tory government we've ever had. And you know, we also have a government that, when it comes to it as well, can't even provide the services when our sick are treated. Sometimes, you know, there's a picture that sums up an issue. A photograph says much more than words sometimes. When it came to the refugees, it was that picture of that child on the shores of the Mediterranean, that poor body. When it came to Syria, it was when that child was pulled out of the debris in Aleppo. The one that summed up the plight of the NHS for me, I don't know whether you saw it. It was in the Mirror and other pictures. It was that young child being treated in an NHS hospital on two chairs pushed together. That's the state of our NHS under this government. People being treated on trolleys, waiting lists going up, cancer patients not getting their appointments. So we have a government that can't feed its population, can't house its population, can't ensure they have decent wages when they go to work, and can't treat the sick. And now we have a government with the latest round of education cuts, where schools right the way across the country, as the NUT representative said, having teachers laid off, children's centres closed down, Sure Start centres being shut as well. And as a result of that, what's happening? Class sizes are increasing. 500,000 kids now being taught in class sizes above 30. And education suffering already. So we have a government that can't feed its population, can't house its population, can't ensure when they go to work they get decent wages, can't treat the sick, and can't ensure our kids get a decent education. What is that? That's a government that doesn't deserve to exist, isn't it? So in a few weeks' time, we've got the opportunity, in a few weeks' time, we the people, we the many, have the opportunity of kicking out the representatives of the establishment, the representatives of the few. And what will we do? Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. And this is not rocket science. We'll introduce a fair taxation system where, yes, the corporations and the rich, because we've now got in tax evasion and tax avoidance in this country on an industrial scale, we'll make them pay their taxes again. And we'll have a fair taxation system where those with the broadest shoulders actually pay their way. And what will we do with that money? Well, we'll invest. We'll invest, yes, in our infrastructure, in road and rail and broadband, and we'll upgrade our whole economy to put people back to work. But in addition to that, we'll make sure when people go to work, they get decent wages. And that means a real living wage, £10 an hour, and we want it now. But when you're at work, you know as well as I do, the best way of protecting yourself, wages and conditions, is join a union. So what we'll do is make sure that we restore trade union rights in this country. We're not asking the earth. All we want is to restore trade union rights so governments in the future abide by the International Labour Organization conventions. But I tell you this, in the first 100 days of a Labour government, we will scrap the Trade Union Act that the Tories introduced to undermine trade unions in this country. And we'll start investing. We'll grow this economy, and we'll start investing in our public services. And what does that mean? We'll start building homes again. There'll be 1 million new homes. We've said at least half of them will be what? Let's call it what they are. They'll be council homes again. Decent homes for people that are affordable. We'll invest in our NHS. We'll end the cuts. We'll invest, but I tell you also as well, we'll stop the privateers ripping us off. We'll end the privatisation of the NHS that the Tories have introduced. And you know, we've always believed as a movement that education is a gift from one generation to another. It's not a commodity to be bought and sold. So we want to introduce, just as the Attlee government with Nye Bevan introduced the National Health Service, we want to introduce a National Education Service, free at the point of need throughout life. And that means ending the cuts in the schools at primary and secondary level. It means free childcare. It means free school training when you need it throughout life. And yes, it means scrapping tuition fees once and for all, so we don't burden our kids with debt in the future. All of those things do what? What sort of society will they create? They'll create a society that's radically fairer, radically more equal, yes, and radically more democratic, with rights restored at work and to local councils and throughout our system. Based upon, yes, an economy that's prosperous economically and environmentally sustainable. But where that prosperity is shared by all. What do you call that? I call it socialism. I call it socialism. And you know, people need to realise that the first step towards that new vision of society starts in June. We can win this election. The media are throwing everything at us. They're trying to denigrate Jeremy personally. I don't know if some of you had the chance to see his speech this morning, but it was absolutely brilliant and moving. And what he demonstrated, actually, what you need in number 10 at the moment is not someone who's supposedly strong and secure. If Theresa May was strong and secure, she'd be debating with Jeremy on TV rather than running away all the time. We need someone who's decent and honest and principled, and who has a history of standing courageously throughout his life on matters of principle, even when he's been swimming against the stream. That's the sort of person we need in number 10. And you know, we can do it. Forget the polls. They've been wrong in every election in recent years anyway. They even got it, God help us, got it wrong with Trump. Forget the polls. We need now to get out on those doorsteps, make sure people are registered, particularly the young people, put the arguments to them. We've reinvented the word of mouth as a form of political communication, using social media, cutting through the crap that we get from the national media at the moment. And in that way, we can convince people, and we can give them what? What haven't they had for a number of years? Hope. That's exactly it. We can give them hope. And what do we need? We need, yes, I always say it, determination. You just need determination. You need courage sometimes when you're standing against the stream. But also you need, and I say it time and time again, we need to remember the secret we learned 150, 200 years ago in the first stages of the Industrial Revolution, in the fields and in the small workshops. We put it on our banners: unity is strength, injury to one is an injury to all. In Latin America, the workers united will never be defeated. What we need is that secret again, solidarity. So with strength and determination and solidarity, we can win this election. And I just say to you, this is our moment. This is our time. Seize the moment. Carpe diem. Seize the moment. Get out there. Campaign for these few weeks. Elect a Labour government. And we'll have something some of us have dreamed of all our lives. A socialist Prime Minister leading a socialist government for a socialist society. Solidarity.